I am your host, Logan23. You're joining me for Picard Episode 4, Rapid Fire Review. Trail on true, my friends. So, let's go and jump into this. It's our first away mission with Picard's ragtag team of misfits, and it's interesting. We're learning more about the holograms. We're learning more about Picard, where he is now versus where he was. I can say this, he is a broken man. He is very much not the Picard we know, because if you take this into consideration, his Starfleet was his foundation for who he is. It's what built him up. So for how many odd years Picard served in Starfleet, he gave his all to Starfleet. And then this whole thing with Romulus and the Romulans and everything else, I mean, he put his literal and figurative reputation, his career, everything on the line, and Starfleet just said, no, we don't care about you. So I can see where, as a person, and real quick, diving into myself, I'm a person who went through a lot through my childhood, teenage years, and young adulthood that most of you probably couldn't even stomach to hear, let alone understand that I've dealt with. And you lose who you are. So, I am trying to, as an individual, be like Picard. Though I haven't made promises to anyone to, save them, I have tried to turn things around for myself, discover who I am. I do not know who I am, let's be honest, and I think that's how Picard feels right now. So in a way, I symbolize with him, I symbolically feel who he is and the whole 9 yards. And, it's tough trying to discover who you are after everything that you tried to be or whatnot is completely shelled out of you, and you're a shell of an individual. So all you can do is try and do rights, or at least try and do one final mission, which we'll get to here in a second what this mission is, but this is one last hoorah for Picard and his crew. And why? Well, on our away mission, Picard's not allowed, even throwing his name around with the people, because he saved each and every one of these people that are on this planet. It was small missions, trying to save the Romulans, before Picard went and got permission to get all these ships on the Utopia Planitia and whatnot. He saved about 250,000 Romulans, through also a team, because the Tal Shiar and everyone else on Romulus were like, no, we cannot accept outside help. How dare you? And Picard went and he made these lavish promises, which clearly he didn't deliver on. But that's not entirely his fault. So, long story short, he meets these people that he met 14 years ago. A little bit of a flashback of they are a elite team of literally fighting nuns. They only care about their people. They're not technologically savvy. It's more about what you can do, what your body can do, agility, speed, strength, etc. And that's all they train around. So there was this boy who was being, I believe the word is reclamated, to this new area, and so he was staying with the nuns. Typically, the fighting order of nuns, they only take in girls to do this epic training and whatnot. So because of what happened and Picard left them on this planet and never came back, and because of the events that we've seen so far, and Picard, his commission's gone and everything, so he no longer has Starfleet pull at all. They were stuck with this boy. So they trained the boy in the way of the sisterhood, of being an elite killing machine, and fighting for Romulans. So we now meet this boy 14 years later, who's now a man. We now meet the Romulans who were of the sisterhood 14 years later, and they still respect Picard. They have this thing where they weren't in the promises, but they at least trusted Picard, and Picard did save at least this handful compared to the almost billion Romulans, this handful of people. So there's that. So he goes to them where he beams down. He's not allowed to land a ship or anything, so the ship is stuck in space. So they beam him through this planetary shield, which anything goes through, it's a kill zone. The whole planet is covered by satellites that immediately will kill anything that goes near the shield. And long story short, he beams down through this window. It's every 30 minutes or so. So he goes down there to try and compel them to help him. we got these old timey-wimey things which remind me of the era of whites only bathroom and things like that, where we have literally a sign that is old timey-wimey of Romulans only in front of this like cafe or food area or something. And so he walks past it to go meet the nuns. Well, the boy that he asked, because the boy is not considered part of the nun sisterhood, but he is raised by them and they respect him. He's learned the training. He's one of the best fighters they have, but he's not allowed to be a part of them because he's not female. Remember, it's kind of females only. So he was lost there. He was left there. So he initially turns down Picard. Picard, in a way, is seemingly angry and having to wait for the shield to go down. He goes back as he's walking out and he sees the Romulans only sign, and he takes it down and he steps on it. Like, this is BS, you know? Kind of like the initial protest movements of, black people versus whites. And the Romulans get upset. They know who he is, clearly. But, they say, hey, your promises, pugh, how dare you, you lied to our people, you killed our people, etc. And then they gave him a sword. They said, we're gonna fight you to the death, pretty much. Lo and behold, this boy, I believe his name is Emmett, appears. Says, don't do this. Very peaceful. Very, very just goes, don't do this, friend. He goes, just lay down your sword and you don't throw away your life. Guy refuses. He goes after Picard. Picard threw down his sword, didn't want to fight because Picard has turned away from the way of violence. Picard never was a violent man, but he would fight if he had to. And he was violent towards the Borg, but everyone else, he was very laid back, diplomatic, etc. Well, this boy moves, man, I'll tell you. He moved lightning quick, and I know it's all cameras and everything, but he just had some acrobatic skills too. It was like, that Hidden Dragon movie. It was beautiful. So I'm wanting some fight scenes with this already. If they're gonna go this avenue with this man, I need some fight scenes, and so that's really gonna throw in some niceness there. Is he just whoosh, and the guy's head just slid right off and fell off. And he's like, pretty much, would anyone else like to do this? Don't do this. Don't throw away your lives. So, nothing else really happened during this besides a little bit of here and there. It was kind of not a really informative, unless you're into the Romulan culture, which any Star Trek fan would like to see behind the scenes, but they showed a little here and there. Especially this hidden, nun order. Which hate the Tel Shiar. So, when they got on the ship, Picard was beamed up, and he yelled at the boy. He goes, "Do not take a life ever again." He goes, "Especially you're bonded. We are bonded. How dare you?" He goes, "You did not have to kill that man," and I understand that. Even though Picard's life was in danger, he was very angry. Like, that's one less Romulan in Picard's mind right now. That's one less Romulan. Already your race has been put to the point of near extinction, and that is one less individual. And I do not want... That blood is on Picard's hands, in a way. So, you are bonded by me by the sword, you are bonded by me by the blood. Do not do that again. And he makes him swear an oath. So, as they're walking on the ship, she's like, how did you do this? The researcher from the Daystrom Institute. And he's like, well, she goes, what was the prerequisite? What was the test? And he goes, because it's a lost cause. Cueing, this is a one and done mission. This is a ragtag team of people who are going to go in, and they're either going to do this one time and die in glorious thing or redeem themselves. One of the two is going to happen. Or at least that's how they're setting out to be right now. Let's be honest, Patrick Stewart is very old. I don't think he's going to have... I hope not. I pray that I die before the man. Because that's going to really set up my depression. I'm serious. He is a man that I've admired for a very, very long time. Not just for his acting, but also just because of who he is, what he's been through, the things he's done for people, and just all around incredible individual. Really, he's always been and will be a huge role model for me, and was a huge role model for me when I was younger and going through my crises. Um, so with that being said, then they get on the bridge of the ship, and this Klingon stealth cruiser, which is supposed to be really rare now, which makes me go, what happened with the Klingons? What's going on? Besides, the huge Dominion War and the Klingons taking heavy losses during that, which the Romulans did too, which a lot of people don't get that. They're like, why is there only, 900 million Romulans on Romulus? Because they threw a bunch of people at, the the Dominion. Like, there was major losses on both sides, major. And Starfleet was mainly playing defensive. And remember, Starfleet is made up of a bunch of races. It's not just particularly one. It's not humanoids. Humanoids ain't crap in this universe. We are just tiny, tiny little stitches in a, like, how many stitches go in this? We are just a couple. So I don't think people realize that. I think people symbolize Starfleet as human because if you look back through the original Starfleet, there really wasn't that many aliens on the Enterprise, and there really wasn't, when you looked at the Starfleet Council, there's not many aliens. When you look at, it's true. It's very true, and yet they don't realize the first bonding moment was Vulcans and humans. Humans were already near extinction as it was because after the Third World War and everything else that went on. So people don't get it. Starfleet isn't all about humans. You are near extinction yourselves if you really want to think about it. And I think that's in a way hatred, and to this day that big old B word, that people are still against alien species and things like that. Some people are fascinated. I myself am fascinated. I would love to meet aliens and to see that universe, and I would just be in awe. But there's a lot of people who still think Starfleet and everything else is all about humans. They don't realize there's a lot of other races out there that are a lot bigger, a lot more sophisticated, the whole 9 yards. We jumped. The only way we made it even to where we are is because of Zephyr and Cochrane. So anyway, they get on the bridge, and there's this Klingon, it's one of the oldies, but it's one of the goldies. It's a stealth bomber, in terms of it decloaks and comes out, and it's got current technology, and so we've got. I mean, people don't understand, like, you don't know the tactical ways of Rios' ship. And I've already seen a few typed, not video, but typed critiques from Star Trek sites and things like that. And I'm like, I rolled my eyes. They're like, do they not have guided missiles? Do you not remember what happened the last time the Enterprise got in a fight with, which they're not guided missiles, by the way, dear article. It's guided torpedoes. And do you not remember what happened with, say, for instance, Voyager, which was the most technological ship? Because the Enterprise E was made during the time of Voyager being in the other quadrant. So the question is, Voyager with the Borg technology and everything else was technically the most sophisticated ship. And even then, with guided, torpedoes and everything else, they still had a hard time fighting some species. So don't, wow, it's kind of like thinking a Tomahawk missile, man, it's just amazing, and there's bigger ones and better ones out there, and there's, give it another 10 years and someone else is going to have better shields than you or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So, Rios' ship only dropped to 89% or so in shields. He was doing a lot of great maneuvers, which he called, by the way, what you could call an emergency pilot program, or emergency, that, I guess that's about it, emergency pilot program, which he's like, I'll do this, you, whatever. And so he was doing fantastic against this vastly bigger ship. But they were being pushed closer and closer towards the bubble, which then I'm going to go ahead and say this. That was stupid. That was stupid. You are in space. You can move 360 degrees. I think some people forget about that. This is probably the first big critique I'll have of Star Trek. Is you have, like, the ship was moving 360 degrees about around the enemy ship and everything. It was kind of like Star Wars fighters going against one another. But you have 360 degrees in space. You should not be getting pushed up against that bubble or that shield. You should be, engineering going up, going down, going left, going right. And that's just in linear perspectives, let alone the fact that you can go in 360, just go completely, go all these degrees and everything. And there's so many ways to go. I don't think people realize that. And especially because the ship had warp. They could have just went around the ship as the ship's turning and everything, just jump into warp. Just jump, just go. Yes, there was warp chases and things like that, but moving on. Long story short, 7 of 9 appears. We didn't know though, but this shuttle just advanced weaponry just went right through the shields, right through which the Klingon ship was getting damaged a little here and there. So easily Rios was putting up a fight while simultaneously dodging because of the holographic emergency pilot program, which there's more personalities. I like it. I really like it. It's like a person who has, he's a shell, and then he's got different holographic perspective of himself that is out there that kind of he's a really great actor to go and do these different accents and different personalities and things like that. It's kind of like how I do with my voices sometimes. On my channel, which if you haven't checked out some of my voice work, please do. It'd be appreciated. Yeah. So, but it was interesting to see these 2 other holograms. I don't think I got to the other one, but I'll get to that here in a second. And so 7 and 9 just cuts right through the wing with her thing, but she was kind of like in a very modified, tiny little shuttle. Well, she came out of nowhere, which we'll have to find out in the next episode. 1, why were you here? 2, what the hell was going on? And 3, that was impressive. And, just build up the numbers. But long story short, she beat the Klingon ship. She cut the wing, but it got one last really solid hit. Her ship was starting to fail, system was failing, and so she couldn't avoid the shield. She was going towards the shield. They beamed her out. Ship just, the kill shield works. So let's put it that way. Klingon ship, I believe, just floated. It was completely, shut down or something. I don't know how. They didn't really pan to that, which was very interesting. I don't remember them doing that. So, long story short, I was kind of overwhelmed with 7 and 9 coming on the ship, and she's like, "You owe me a ship." And then fade. As for the border cube, there really wasn't much going on. It's interesting, the Romulan culture and everything. So, first of all, the Romulan executive director is still trying to woo Soji. It's getting a little old at this point. I'm just saying, it really is getting a little old. Like, I get it, romance happens and everything, but he's like, well, I'm doing it at my own pace. I'm planting a seed. She's like, oh, a seed. His sister, by the way, who's the other Romulan agent. She goes, oh, you planted a seed. Wow. And she just really was not that impressed. Her methods he's smarter, but she's stronger and more viscous and just very... So... he was in bed. They have this playful demeanor, which makes me wonder if Romulans, like, if she's like half-brother or or if she's half-sister or maybe step-sister or something. They have kind of like this playful demeanor. Am I correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below. It kind of seems like they have more of a relationship than just brother and sister. Which it wouldn't be the first species in the galaxy that had that. It was just, I just have this feeling. Like, anyway, she was choking him and she wanted his obedience. Which that's what gives me kind of like to what's going on. But, I mean, the wooing will happen. Really nothing of Soji going on besides how intelligent she is, which that's kind of a given. There's no point to keep hitting it home. But nothing really happened on that front. Besides him trying to do his evil plotting and her trying to do hers, and it was very lackluster, let's put it that way. In terms of trying to figure out more what's going on. Hugh was not in this episode, which is very interesting. He kind of just vanished off the face of this earth, apparently, when he took so much interest in the prior episode of what was going on. I feel like they're trying to throw so much at this while simultaneously not throwing enough in certain areas. Another con. But it's still filling in a lot of gaps and whatnot. Aside from that, there was, at the beginning of the episode, Picard was in a holodeck. It was a very small one, which they pointed out, like, it's very interesting how you have this holodeck on this very small ship for entertainment purposes. And they kind of pointed it out, like, this is a ship that's not meant for combat, which people didn't really get. But yet it still has luxury things and everything. So apparently, Rios, the actor, also has a holographic designing program, which is a hologram which has a very nice and sociable, personable, very, very nice, very appeasing. I want to appease you. I want to do everything you want. Kind of like personality, which they recreated. Picard's whole chateau there for holographic purposes. And I think it's because of what's going on with his body, his mind, right now. Kind of keeping him rooted and not getting lost in this thing that's killing him slowly. Which, for people with terminal illnesses, just gonna say, yeah, you want to try and keep your mind busy for as long as you can until the day you pass. And you typically want to keep doing things and trying as hard as you can, because if you sit there and you just dwell on it, or if you just let it consume you, you will lose your mind and go into a great state of depression, if not terminate. So, yeah. With that being said, he turned off the holographic program because Picard was done. And everyone else was coming into this room, and he was really enjoying it, and you could tell it was a piece of home that he came to love. It was something that he loved. He didn't have kids. He didn't have a woman he loved. That was Picard. I mean, he threw away his whole life for Starfleet. He gave away love. He gave away children, or the chances of it, everything else. He gave away. I don't think people understand. When you give and give and give, and this is another thing that I wholeheartedly understand, and we are like this. When it comes to giving ourselves and what we want, especially earthly or other worldly pleasures, and giving those away for our cause or what we're doing, and that's our foundation that we're pushing for. We lose a lot of those things that people take for granted, such as love, such as intimacy, the whole nine yards. And that was something that Picard always struggled with on the Enterprise for TNG, and it was something that Picard has struggled with even to this day. And they touched on that too, for his kind of like companionship or feelings for this Romulan boy. And Picard literally was reading a story to him, and it was probably the closest to being a father that Picard had ever been. So, with that being said, this was a good episode. It was warm, it was touching at certain points, it was action-packed for space battle, but it was very lackluster. But let's be honest, the only time we really got any action-packed, like, oh my god, space battle, was kind of like in the movies, kind of like the Borg. But even then, it was touch and go. It really was never, like, even Wolf 359, even then, we didn't see a lot going on. I think the closest we ever got to all-out combat was during the Dominion War, which was the closest that we just had all-out chaos. There was a few episodes here and there on Voyager, but it was never constant chaos, constant fighting, constant anything. So Deep Space Nine at least enraptured that want and that need for some people. But I think people, after watching a couple of these movies or Star Trek Discovery, have suddenly been like, I want more, oh, like, calm down. This is not all of that is different from who Picard is. And people also quickly forget that Jonathan Wilkes, the Commander Riker, who is also helping to direct as well as do some of these episodes, is behind the camera. And he had unquestionably done some of the most fantastic work on Star Trek Discovery, as well as a couple of these other things. And he is a fantastic person behind that camera. And so that is even more reason why I have faith in where this is going, especially because he was on some of the Orville ones too, and pushing and made those highly successful episodes too. So people quickly forget that there's a lot of other people behind Kirkman, people who hate for whatever bloody reason. There's a lot of people behind him that are pushing for things to be right and wrong, and just wronging the wrongs, or what I'm saying. But I'm giving it a chance. I'd say I'd rate this episode about a 7 out of 10. It was good. It wasn't action packed. It was good. It wasn't something that I felt like, man, I really wasted my time. This is stupid. Like, if that's the case, there's a million other shows right now. Everyone's like, no, then I'm like, So, with that being said, thank you all for joining me today. Let me know your thoughts and whatnot down below. If you did enjoy the video, please consider sharing. If you enjoy the content, check out a lot of the other content. I do streams on Twitch, Mixer. I do a lot of other gameplays, voice acting, if I didn't mention that already, which I did. And a lot of other things that hopefully you come to enjoy. If this is you're just tuning in for Picard reviews, please consider checking out my other content. And at the very least, get to know me as a creator. And thank you very much once again for tuning in. And I hope to see you out there for the next episode. Have a good one. Peace.